Hi, and welcome to our show. I'm Queen,
And I'm Lee.
and this is the Queen and Lee Show. On today's motivational, inspirational show, we are going to talk about a topic and then we're going to do some live music.
Today's topic is, what is happiness? It is probably the most thought-provoking question in life. What is happiness? What makes me happy? What will keep me happy? These are all questions that plague the mind, body, and soul throughout our lifespan. Only you can determine what the answers to those questions are. So, what do you think the definition of happiness is?
Well, for me, I think the definition of happiness is when you are okay with, I would say, just about everything. When you don't have to be content, you don't have to be settled. But to me, I feel like happiness is more of I guess it really is just a feeling. But to me, happiness is when you are okay with everything that's in your life or going on around you at that time.
Yeah, I gotta say the same thing. Happiness is kind of like a fluid concept, and to each his own. But I think in today's time, people can't even decide what happiness is, and therefore they're not happy. Like they put happiness in. Well, if I get this, I won't try to sound like I'm fluid in that clothing, but whatever that name brand is, if I can get that, I'm good to go. If I can get that brand new car, I'm good to go. If I can get that job position, I'm good to go. If I could get that, whatever that thing is, I'm good to go. But what happens if you never get those things? Does that mean you're not happy? Does that mean you're not striving? What does that mean? I mean, for me, I look at like basic concepts, and I hate to sound like bookwormish, but Maslow's hierarchy of needs, to me, that describes happiness on a basic level. Like, as long as I got food, shelter, love, feeling of belonging, and security, everything else can be added on. And those things are taking place now. Sometimes you feel like you're close to losing some of those things because all those things cost money. The groceries is high, the rent, mortgage is high, the car
Yes.
notes is high, the car insurance is high. But we're making it. We're making it. I can't say so. Those things are secure. The feeling of belonging, the ones that I need to make me feel like I belong, my wife and my kids, and how I feel, and to a certain degree, a network at the job. The job doesn't always do exactly what I say, but it's about feeling as a part of a network, and I do feel like I'm a part of the network to making things move around that job. Now, can I be replaced? Yes. But my attitude is always, I do feel like I'm a part of what goes on there. And a lot of times, if you feel like we are part, that adds to your happiness. What you think?
I do agree. But just to add a little bit more to that, I do also believe that happiness has to definitely start within.
Right.
Before we can go to material things and other people, we have to be able to be happy and content with ourselves.
Right.
And I believe that happiness it varies to each individual. What's happiness to me may not be happiness to someone else. But for me, I say happiness is when I wake up and I'm not worried, or when I'm able to manage, because it's not always about having everything in life
No.
fixed. It's about that day by day uh, ability to be able to manage. And I think for me, that is the biggest part of happiness. If I can go through the week and be able to manage whatever life has for me, that's happiness for me.
Okay. I'll have to go with that. Let's see. Well, you already answered the next lineup was what makes me happy, and I pretty much answered it according to Maslow's hierarchy of needs. I'm the book geek, so what will keep me happy, or what keeps you happy? You said what actually happiness means to you. What are the things that get you happiness? What do you think keeps you happy? Is it do you Well, I don't want to lead you into a path. I kind of got an idea of what I was thinking, but what keeps you happy?
Um, I would have to go back to what I just really just said. What keeps me is happy is being content within. And when I'm able to be content within, I'm able to, I would guess, share happiness with others. I guess,
Right.
in a way. So what keeps me content is what as long as I am content within
Yeah,
or
so
satisfied.
satisfied. Yes, I was just thinking a lot of times. Sometimes when I'm in different places in my life, and I see sometimes what I interpret as misery from others, which misery is probably a word that a group of people could come together and determine that's what that is when they look at it. It's not like you need this grand definition of misery. You know what misery is when you run into it. I just always wonder sometimes, going back to the first thing we said, I can never understand some people that are just so miserable. And my goal, one of the things that keeps me happy, is to almost build a certain level of security against those that continue to be miserable. There are some people that just want attention. Like, they are always going to have something to complain about. Then that's because empty wagons make the most noise. Like, I often like to talk about my wife, my kids, my personal life, my personal achievements, and the personal things that I'm trying to get to. And when I say things, it doesn't necessarily have to be a tangible. It's just a goal that I would like to. But you ever notice sometimes you're going to bring something to somebody, and then they somehow find something negative to talk about? You might be talking about apples, and somehow they bring in oranges. And it's not that they are attacking you. That person is already miserable. They are losing hope. They may have lost hope, and they don't try to find another outlet or inlet for the happiness to continue. They just allow, like, I got to be honest, there are times when I'm down on hope. I tell my wife here, my mother-in-law, that she named her wrong. Her name should have been Hope instead of Ursula. Because sometimes on my darkest days, I'm scratching my head trying to problem solve, and I can't find the answer. I'm kind of like the boss of the logistics, and she helps out with the emotional part, because I'm usually lost about that part. Like, I can't understand people and why they respond the way they do, because logic tells me if you're in reasonably perfect health, your basic parts is, and I'm stuck because I'm going to different persons and places in my life and can't understand that essentially you make really decent money. You're not starving for anything. You're not wanting for anything. You know, you may have position, you may have favor, you may have, and I just can't in my mind understand when I'm looking from the outside. Now, I don't know what the inside is. Maybe you have a horrific past, and maybe you can't get beyond low self-esteem issues or whatever. But even with that, you can build yourself up, and especially if you be around positive people, and
That's true.
and
That's true.
allow that to reign instead of. Sometimes I stop talking if I don't have nothing good to say, and I feel like it's going to be a damper on what's going on. You know, I will encourage anybody to go after their dreams. I never say, my wife say right now, I want to be an astronaut. My first thing is not to say, girl, you ain't no astronaut. Well, what do we need to do for you in order to be an astronaut? Let's look into it. Sometimes just encouraging people will raise their misery to happiness. Like, you think I can do it?
Just a little small thing just a little small notion of support is enough.
Right. No, you're right. So when I think of things to encourage happiness, to promote happiness, to inspire, to motivate, because that's what this show is about, inspiration and motivation throughout. And when I say throughout, it's going to be open-ended. We're going to talk about being inspired to cook. Maybe you don't like cooking. This lady knows quick meals on a budget, because we're on a budget. We're talking about music inspiration. I'm going to bring you plenty of that. When you're talking about life inspiration, we have been through plenty. There is some things that will be disclosed throughout these TV shows that you may say, oh, I know all about that. Oh man, I thought I was the only one that goes through that. Personal experience shared is what adds to happiness, because then you don't feel like you're alone. You know, a lot of times I've gone to other men and said, hey, do you deal with this, or have you dealt with this? And just by virtue of them saying yes, I walk away feeling lighter. Perhaps it's the same thing in the lady community.
It is also is a lot of times, like you said, a lot of times half of the battle was just knowing that you are not by yourself. You're not the only one. You know, most times in life, a lot of things we're all just going through. It has nothing to do with who you are, your race, your size, your age. It's just life issues, and there's no way around it. I believe a lot of times we get stuck in thinking that it is just something that we are experiencing, when in the reality is something that everyone experiences. But if we don't communicate, we don't reach out, if we don't connect with other humans and speak to them, we don't know what somebody else has experienced, and we don't know how much that person can help us in our experience, and being able to navigate in a way so that we can obtain that thing that we are looking for, which is called happiness. A lot of times we speak about happiness as if it is a lifestyle, but it is not. It is just an emotion.
Right.
It's virtually impossible to be happy every single day, but we can strive and do our best to make it as many days out of the week as we can. Happiness is what you make it, and happiness is what you believe. Because I do believe in, a higher power, and I believe that without belief it's very hard to find happiness, because we all know here on this earth there's a lot of things that can interrupt that happiness at any given time.
Right.
So I believe, when it comes down to happiness, you make up you are responsible, and you are the one that's in control over your happiness, and it is something that you need to do to obtain it. How do we get to happiness? It's up to you, through you and what you feel and what you want, and your perception of what happiness is. Because happiness to me can be a car. Happiness to you can just be having 5 minutes to sit out and hear the birds chirp.
Right.
It's very
fluid,
and it's individualized.
Yeah.
To each person it means something different. For me, I'm looking for total peace, just to be peaceful, just to have a clear mind, just to have a open mind. That brings happiness for me. And being able to share with others. Everybody don't feel that way, but for me, a part of my happiness is giving to someone else outside of myself. Yes, it's nice for me to have things. Yes, it's nice for me to have the things that I want. But for me, it makes me very happy to be able to help someone else. That's true.
You almost don't. I almost didn't want to come behind that, because that is like one of the biggest things that that we have talked about. Things that we have done in our personal life is always trying to help somebody else, and help doesn't always mean cash. Help can be, just being a listening ear. Sometimes not giving advice, just listening. Sometimes, I learned that through my marriage. Most times I'll find out in my marriage, my wife just wants me to listen. She don't even want me to come up with a plan. Our brain, as males, we hear talking, we immediately go to fixing. But sometimes fixing it means just listening to whatever she has to say. And then that goes outside of the house. Sometimes people just want to be heard. And a lot of times, a lot of your unhappy people that I have run into, and the times that I have felt unhappy, I might have just been in my own head. I feel like not being heard. How many times do you have kids, or you have a mate, or you have a co-worker, you have a boss, you have parents, you're sitting here singing, the sky is falling, the sky is falling. Everybody's like, yeah. Because everybody's worried about their own sky falling.
Yes.
A lot of times that's something else that we do. We judge and we become unhappy because we think nobody cares. But I had to tell a close family member one time, I did not come to your aid because I was ignoring you. I didn't even know you needed aid, number one. Number two, I was over here on my side of the corner of the earth fighting to stay, what do they say, stay afloat, my own self. So a lot of times we become unhappy because we think nobody cares. But what's happening is, in some cases, not all cases, some cases, I'll find most cases, people are trying to survive their own self.
I believe that's true.
And I know for myself, I'm a very caring individual. I don't call a lot of folks and I don't reach out. But when they reach out to me, I return quick. Phone call, hey, what's good, man? You all right? Hey, ma'am, you need help? Blah, blah, blah. I do it with strangers. I do it with families, co-workers, friends, what have you. But a lot of times if I don't, it's not because I didn't see you or I didn't care. It's because I'm already fighting my own battle. So let that be a lesson to you. Also, like, be certain that you are not being ignored versus people are having their own battles. And that will also make you feel a little bit happy. I know a lot of times as I get older or have gotten older, I just thought maybe people generally are just not paying attention, or people generally don't care or what have you. But really, people are fighting to stay afloat their own selves. And we're getting around to the end here. And anything you want to say to wrap up before we get to the musical inspirational portion?
What I want to say is, just to wrap it up, happiness is up to you. You are responsible for your own happiness, and you have to find your way there. No one else can get you to happiness but yourself.
That's it. So get ready to sit back and listen to Lee Mims, which happens to be Lee Mims Productions. It's also what I go by on the internet. Plenty of instrumental music across all social media platforms and streaming. So that's our time. Hey, stay tuned.
Bye.
Decided organist and anxious.
More about Queen and Lee, please go to YouTube and check out our channel, Queen of Trades 1234, or you can also find more music from Lee at Lee Mims Production on YouTube as well. Thank you.